We start with the concrete pad beside the decking. This will be our main reference point for the paving layout across the entire garden. With the surface clean, we apply a deep penetrating primer. It binds any remaining fine dust and reduces the concrete's absorbency. With the primer dry, we can start mixing the adhesive for the paving slabs. For outdoor work, always use a flexible adhesive rated for exterior use. Changes in temperature cause the slabs and concrete base to expand and contract, and the adhesive needs to accommodate that movement. These slabs are quite large, and because we are laying them on a thin bed of adhesive, there's very little room for adjustment. The correct level and fall must already be built into the concrete pad. Now we are about to find out whether we got it right last year. A few corners are chipped, but these are reclaimed slabs, and overall they are still in good condition. But wait until you see the slabs we've got for the paving at the back of the house. You might wonder why they haven't already ended up in a landfill. With the concrete pad now paved, the next job is to prepare the base for the paving strip along the decking. We use a sand and gravel mix to form the subbase. Once the paving is finished, no one will ever see this layer. Yet it is one of the most important parts of the entire job. Without it, these paving slabs wouldn't stand much chance of making it through even the first winter without settling or shifting. With only a narrow strip to compact, this homemade hand tamper will do the job just fine. With everything compacted, we can start laying the first slabs for this strip. We set the mortar bed so the slab sits slightly above the finished level. This gives us room to tap it down and adjust both the height and the slope. Because this strip slopes down from the pad, the first slab needs to be cut at an angle. That way it meets the pad with a tight, clean joint instead of leaving an open gap at the top. We leave the original rounded edge intact and hide the angled cut underneath, so no fresh saw marks are visible from above. Next, we temporarily position another slab at the far end of the strip. With both ends set, we now have the line, height, and slope to follow for every slab in between. Yes, this concrete bed is quite thick, but there is a reason for that. With a flower bed running alongside this section, the concrete creates a clean border and keeps the paving base separate from the planting soil. Near the end of this strip, we need a custom cut piece in the second to last position. That allows the final slab to remain full and become our reference point as the border continues around the next side. Once the strip is finished, we add concrete hunching halfway up the sides of the slabs. This locks them in place while leaving room to cover the concrete with soil. With this section beside decking complete, we can continue the paved border down alongside the retaining wall, but the next part is going to be a bit harder, since this whole area needs to be dug out by hand. Since we are creating another flower bed here, we do not want to fill the entire trench with subbase. So to separate the two areas, we set this board into the trench, keeping the base material only where the paving will go. For better compaction, we lightly dampen the subbase with water. These are the last reclaimed slabs I have of this type, so I cannot be too picky. But wait until this trench is filled with plants and grass covers the other side. Those chipped corners will barely be noticeable. There is one important detail I have not mentioned yet. Before each slab goes down, we coat the back with a cement slurry. This creates a stronger bond with the mortar bed, helping prevent the slabs from coming loose over time. We cannot finish this end of the flower bed until the driveway is built. Large stones will retain the edge, with the final slabs transitioning into them. The driveway comes next, so subscribe to see this huge garden finally completed. But before we get to that, we still have several important garden features to build, starting behind the house. Here we switch to these rougher reclaimed slabs. They are much narrower, so we will lay them in 2 rows to make up the width. Because the decking sits almost level with the ground, we need to notch the slabs around each joist. After making these cuts, I started to wonder whether trimming the entire row beside the decking would have been the better approach. From this point on, the paving continues along the wall with full slabs. So what would you do? Notch this slabs or trim the entire row? Getting the mortar bed right does most of the work before the slab even goes down. We spread it evenly across the full area, already shaping the fall, and any changes of angle the paving needs to follow. When the bed is prepared correctly, the slab only needs fine adjustments as it is tapped into place. The fall should come from the shape of the bed. As you can see, these reclaimed slabs are far from perfect. They vary in size and have plenty of bumps and irregular edges. Trying to force the center joint perfectly straight would make the outside edge wander. Instead, we keep the outside edge parallel to the wall, maintaining a consistent paving width while allowing the center joint to absorb those differences. This paved strip isn't for access. It keeps soil and vegetation away from the wall, reduces muddy splashback, and directs surface water safely away from the house. And with this final cut, the paving reaches the steel edging we built beside the pond in an earlier project. That build involved several interesting solutions, so if you want to see how we built it, I will leave the full video linked in the description below. With all the slabs in place, we can now tidy up these wonky joints as much as the reclaimed edges will allow. To fill the joints, we pack in a semi-dry mix of building sand and cement. It contains just enough moisture for the cement to cure, while staying dry enough to reduce smearing and stains across the slab surface. To prevent hidden voids, we work through every joint with a putty knife, compacting the mix deep into the gap until we are certain every joint is packed solid. And the next day, the rain gave us the perfect chance to test every fall across the paving, confirming that water drains away from the house as intended. Once everything dries out, we can bring the soil up to the slabs, hiding the concrete haunch and creating a smooth transition into the lawn that is easy to mow. Even though these rough reclaimed slabs were only just laid, they already look like they've been here for years. Would you use slabs like these around your house? With the paving around the house finished, we can move on to the garden walkways. We'll start with the one connecting the driveway to the main pad beside the decking. From this pad, every route branches off in a different direction. We leave this gap between the paved border and the walkway to create a flower bed, mainly because I couldn't think of a better use for the space. And who doesn't love flowers? Unlike the borders, this walkway will see regular use and has to handle winter ground movement, so we build a full 30cm sand and gravel sub-base. That extra depth gives the slabs more stable support, helping prevent settling and shifting over time. To avoid wasting material, we use a board to keep the sub-base right where it needs to be. We still make it 20cm wider than the finished walkway, giving the outer slabs and concrete haunch solid support. Once the levels are right, everything beyond that gets filled with soil. The homemade hand tamper was enough for the narrow borders, but I did not trust it with a base this deep, so we brought in a proper compactor for this. I keep checking every slab, making sure the whole surface stays smooth and still falls away from the house. The walkway already runs downhill, but rainwater also needs to drain off the side instead of pouring down its full length. We can't take this walkway any farther yet because it needs to meet the upcoming driveway. Once that is in place, we can match the final height and angle. And another flower bed is taking shape. What do you think of this style? At the end of this video, I will show you how it looks with all the plants fully grown in. But for now, it is time to take on the longest walkway in this entire build. I probably should have brought in a mini excavator for this one, but we're saving that for the driveway, so we'll have to get this done by hand, with a little help from the front loader. First, we cut 2 shallow trenches with a shovel to mark both sides of the walkway. This gives us clear lines to follow when we start digging out the middle. This hard clay would have been a mission to dig out by hand. I'd say the front loader saved us about 2 full days of digging. This trench is so long that even a tight string line would sag in the middle and throw off our levels. So we add 2 support points along the way to keep it at the right height across the full length. Getting the finished levels and falls right starts at the very bottom. With the string line set, we can trim the trench to its final depth, clean up the edges, and leave a smooth, even surface for the subbase. A trench this large in the middle of a hill quickly becomes a collection point for rainwater. So before the subbase goes in, we will install drainage pipes to carry the water away and keep this walkway from flooding again. The drainage needs to sit below the main trench. This creates a low point where water can collect and flow away. Trapped water might not look like a big problem in summer, but once winter hits, it can freeze, lift the base, and shift the slabs. By spring, the whole walkway could become a real ankle breaker. Normally, these drainage pipes should be surrounded with washed stone and non-woven geotextile to keep fine soil from clogging them. But we cut a few corners here and covered them with sand instead. Not best option, but will do the job. With the drainage in place, we can finally bring in the sand and gravel mix and start building the subbase that will support this entire walkway. But one truckload won't be enough for the whole job. Because this subbase is about 30 centimeters deep, we place it in 2 layers so each one can be compacted properly. Putting the full depth in at once could leave the lower section undercompacted and cause the paving to settle. With the first layer in place, we work across the entire trench with the hand tamper. For the second layer, we work much more precisely, screeding it to the required height and falls. The more accurate this surface is now, the easier it will be to keep the mortar bed at a consistent thickness when we lay the slabs. Because the top of the subbase sits above the surrounding ground, we bring soil up along both sides to support the edges. This keeps the material contained at the correct width and prevents it from spreading during compaction. And we can finally bring in the plate compactor for the upper layer. Proper compaction reduces future settlement and gives the paving a firm, stable foundation. Once compacted, we screed the top one final time, making the last adjustments to the height and falls before the mortar bed goes down. Since these new slabs are slightly smaller, we shift the layout inward instead of matching the outside edge. This keeps the center joint aligned with the joints in the main pad and gives us a cleaner transition. This walkway needs to connect with another pad on the far side of the garden, but the two pads do not line up. So we need to angle cut the first two slabs to establish the new direction. Their alignment will set the straight line for every slab that follows. That is what makes these the most stressful cuts of the entire walkway. Luckily, we got both right on the first try. Those first cuts gave us a good start, but from here, progress slows down because the rain keeps coming back every 20 minutes, forcing us to stop. And just as we get moving again, the rain comes straight back. Even with all the rain delays, I still managed to reach the first checkpoint. Now we can remove it and keep moving, with two more still ahead. I lay two slabs at a time. Adjusting them together keeps the outside edges aligned, the center joint straight, and both slabs flush with the correct crossfall. These slabs are seriously heavy. After carrying and laying a full pallet in one day, it feels like my arms have stretched a couple of inches. We can't finish this walkway just yet. We still need tractor access to level and seed this side. Once the final slabs go down, the only way in would be over the new paving, and I'm not risking that. But before bringing in soil, we need to fill the joints, so none gets trapped between the slabs. These slabs stain very easily, so we use a completely dry sand and cement mix for the joints and keep the surface spotless. Once every joint is fully packed, we lightly dampen them with water so the mortar can begin to set. With the joints filled, we can start shaping the ground beside the walkway. Because the walkway sits higher than the existing ground, we first use the poorer soil as fill to raise the surrounding level. We spread it out to form the rough shape the finished lawn will follow, leaving it 2 to 4 inches below the final level for the topsoil. Next, we spread topsoil over the new area and blend it into the low spots across the existing lawn. The more evenly we shape the surface now, the smoother the finished lawn will look and the easier it will be to mow. Once the topsoil is roughly spread, we run the cultivator through it to break up the clumps and loosen the surface. This makes final leveling with the rake much easier and creates a finer seedbed for the grass. With most of the ground on this side now leveled out, we can finally finish the last section of the walkway. By this point, I had settled into a routine. Prepare the mortar, carry 2 very heavy slabs, set them in place, check everything, then check it all again because one check never feels like enough. Repeat that enough times, and the far pad slowly gets closer, while my patience gets a little shorter with every slab. This became one of the longest walkways I've ever built. From digging the trench to laying the final slabs, it took us around 7 days. And although the paving is all anyone will see, most of that time went into the work now buried underneath, the drainage, the subbase, the compaction, and getting every level and fall right. The slabs finish the surface, but everything underneath is what gives this walkway a chance to last for years. And with the final joint filled, this walkway is finally complete. How long do you think this walkway actually is? Drop your guess in the comments. And yes, we still need to connect it to the driveway. That comes in the next episode, along with the full driveway build and a few tricky details we'll have to solve. I'll also show you how this new lawn grows in. Subscribe to see it all come together. This place will be almost unrecognizable.